All right. This is the gorges you see here along the East African Rift. That's Olduvai, cuts through the plains. Here's a close-up of the Olduvai Gorge. This is an aerial shot of Olduvai. Mary and Louis Leakey worked there for most of their life, and their son, what was his name? Can't think of his name. Would continue their work. But anyway, there's Mary and Louis Leakey, and some of their early finds. They're more noted for the first true humans, which are called Homo habilis. This is near Olduvai. It's a plateau called Latoli, and Mary Leakey found some tracks there. This is a ash layer from a volcanic eruption, and they were looking at the different types of animal footprints in the ash layer because it was helping them understand the fauna that existed at that time, the types of animals. When they pulled out this section of dirt here to expose the ash layer, right here where they're pointing, they found human tracks. And that was quite shocking because they were dating this ash layer at like 1.3 million years old. And they find tracks that are identical essentially to our footprint. So that's just weird to find a 1.3 million year old ash layer with very human looking tracks. And they believe that it's probably the track of Australopithecus afarensis. They think this is a Lucy find. But they don't know that for sure. It doesn't have labels on it. It's just a very human looking track. So what that would suggest is that Lucy's foot was also very, very human-like. Again, it evolved very rapidly. This is an aerial shot of the trackway. Let's imagine that you're the archaeologist, okay? Like we did with the skeletal finds. And I want you to tell me as much as you can about the events that occurred here based upon the tracks. It's like you're a scout. You're the tracker. Okay? So you have two different tracks. The one on the right is smaller. The one on the left is larger. Either that or it's one person with a really big left foot. We want to cover all the bases here, but most likely it's probably two individuals. All right, so you're saying the one on the right is a child? Okay, that's good. I think the proportions are such that it's probably a child rather than a female. You're not, our anthropologists haven't seen as much sexual dimorphism you see in other animals, so probably is a child on the right. There's also another hint that it may be a child, other than just the fact that it's smaller.
They're angled out.
You see how they're angled out? See how the feet are angled out? It's called pigeon-toed. And very often children will be pigeon-toed until their leg bones begin to develop, and their feet will straighten up. So the fact that it has pigeon-toed, its feet point out, it would also suggest it's a child.
And the tracks on the right-hand side, they look like they're actually 2 feet, 2 separate feet. One's going to the left, one's going to the right.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like there's 2 sets right there instead of one big foot, one little foot.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way that it's the angle of the foot would suggest it's another individual. So, we're dealing with 2 individuals, one small, one large. We know that. Probably a child and an adult, maybe a parent. So we've got that much. What else? There's other footprints in the ash. You can see a large set here, maybe a giraffe or something walking through. And it's interesting because it can show the types of animals that the early man was living with and so on. What else do you see?
Does stride get shorter as it gets further?
Well, I think that's probably mostly due to the perspective. The photograph was taken with the fisheye lens, so it's kind of distorting the image. And so this is in the distance. So that's probably the reason it's getting shorter, is because the footprints are getting smaller, and the pace is getting shorter because it's perspective, looking in the distance. What else?
Did we mention the proximity to the both sides?
In terms of the stride If you look, you have a big foot, little foot, so it looks like someone with two different size feet hopping. So if you think about stride, if you imagine this is a normal size foot, size 8 or 9 or whatever, and you look at the stride, this is a normal stride, isn't it? If you think about placing one foot in front of another, walking. And so what about this stride of the small foot?
It's longer.
It's much longer, isn't
Longer
it?
steps to keep up.
And so, yeah, the fact that they're matching up would suggest the child is trying to match the pace of the adult. And if you think about that stride, especially when you consider you're in a very soft ash, it has to be pretty soft like mud, right, to make that kind of deep impression. And so you have a child's foot with this long stride, but yet the footprint is very well formed, very well developed. That could give us a hint of what's happening. Well, if this child was running and jumping, wouldn't the foot be all messy if it's soft mud? So that means there must be something supporting the child to make that kind of stride. What would be supporting the child? Yeah, the parents are probably holding the child's hand, helping support his weight. Because this is a volcanic eruption. This is a soft ash flow. That means that they're moving across this ash to get away from a volcanic eruption. It's probably pitch black. And all of these tracks are moving away from the volcano. They know which volcano produces ash flow. And they're all moving away, which is perfectly rational. You're running away from the volcano. And they probably are too. And so they're probably frightened. The mother or the father's holding the child's hand, and as they're making this quick getaway, he's supporting the child's weight. All right? So we can extract quite a bit of information from what we find here. You also notice that the tracks, see how the adult track changes right here? See what's happening? Follow each of these footprints and then look here. See how it's different? See how they're closer together here? The footprints are closer together. Also, look at the push out of the mud right here and how this is distorted. You have nice even footprints till you get here and something's taking place. What do you think is happening to cause this kind of distortion, a mud push out or a ash push out there? I guess that maybe if they're pushing off here, the problem is if they pushed off here, the mud would be in the back, right? But the mud isn't in the back. This mud push out is it's in the arch on the inside of the left foot.
The kid's trying to go off a little bit, possibly right.
You really don't see I mean, if you saw a track over here, right, that would fit your scenario. But the track of the child's pretty even, so it's probably something the adult's doing that would cause mud to push out in the middle. Or
Looking around.
probably slowing down, maybe not stopping. It could have stopped, I guess, and turning. Which way would they be turning to push out? Turning to the mud's pushing out to inside.
Turn to the right.
They'd be turning to the right because that would pull the body around, right, to the right. That's where the mud's pushing out. So this would suggest that the adult is slowing down or stopping here, turning to the right and looking over his right shoulder. That's the direction of the volcano. So he's probably checking the volcano. All right, anything else? Got to move on, but
If he was carrying stuff, they could have shifted the weight.
yeah, that's true. He's carrying like luggage, maybe shifted hands. The foot, though, what's interesting to anthropologists is that this is a 1.3, or maybe have been older. It's a very ancient ash flow, and yet the human footprint is not primitive in any way. It's identical to our footprint.